Okay, next move to the let's move to the mental health aspect of NBSs for cities as well. So another nice schematic painting, artistic representation of the city, the green spaces, people enjoying the green spaces, person feeling happy enough to come play music, somebody meditating, kids playing in the water, and so on and so forth. These are actually things that exist in many places, and they are done mindfully to achieve the goals that we are talking about. So this is not just a theoretical idea that we are discussing. These are not just concepts that are theoretical, but actually there are implementations and measured assessments and evaluations despite all the caveats. The caveat, of course, being that mental health and well-being are non-market goods, and often they are self-reported in terms of positive benefits. So if somebody is insistent on measuring the benefit of investment and is very hard-nosed about economic concepts of cost and benefit, then you may lose this perception aspect of the benefits as well. Okay, so a conceptual model for providing a template for the analysis of mental health benefits of nature contact along 4 main steps from this book here. So you have natural features, size, type, and qualities. You can see here is like a meadow with full of flowers and trails to walk in, whereas here you have a paved pathway for bicycle riding. It's not that this is better than this one, it's just that they are 2 different types and sizes and qualities. Exposure, so proximity to nature, time spent in contact with nature. Well known that this really matters, reduces stress, exposure release of stress hormones, which in the long term has serious benefits like reducing probabilities of cancer and other diseases as well. Experience, just in terms of interaction and dose, and there are some nice papers showing that this matters for social cohesion and interactions and so on and so forth, as of course they are educational as well. 4th one is the effect on mental health and psychological well-being. So there are nature experience with arbitrary units such as time here, and then you have stress levels A, B, and C. As we said, you can see that the scatter is high in the location A, but B and C shown with these colors to say that green spaces can reduce the stress level and so on. Again, these can be self-reported, so all the caveats go with it. But if you look at nature-based solutions targeted at mental health and green care interventions to respond to global challenges to mental health outcomes, then from this paper you see the challenges for urban health and well-being. Air pollution, really terrible, especially PM 2.5, which can get you into your lungs and guts and into your bloodstream. Evidence that it enhances, of course, COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, other respiratory diseases, diabetes, maybe mental health. There is some PM 2.5 found in the street dogs' brains in Mexico City and so on. Noise is a big thing, heat, flooding, densification and urban growth, increasing pressure on resources such as land, social stress or generally stress, loss of social cohesion, disconnection between nature and people, biodiversity loss and spread of pandemics. Of course, stress in general is also a kind of a double-edged sword. Urban centers tend to be innovation hubs as well. Number of patents granted to urban centers, metropolitan statistical areas versus number of patents can be positive correlation. So people that migrate to cities are either forced because of financial constraints and job opportunities, or people that love urban life. I love living in cities, for example. Nature-based solutions then can include green space interventions, NBS targeted at mental health, and green care interventions. So they have specific meanings you can look up in this paper, but I think you have an intuitive sense. Health protection resulting, reducing harm in terms of air quality regulation, a temperature regulation, noise regulation, and flood control, which of course leads to positive benefits on physical, mental, and social well-being. well-being, and those feedback also with nature-based solutions and health protection and promotion in terms of recovering from stress and restoring capacities for stress reduction, attention, restoration, contact with biodiverse environments, building and maintaining capacities and promotion of physical activity, promotion of social interactions, contact with biodiverse environments. I've lived in Mumbai, I've lived in Washington DC, New York City, and when you have access to a park, you can go running every evening, you get easily motivated, but that's not the case if you're living in an urban jungle and you have to run through traffic, for example, which is not always friendly to pedestrians. Okay, so let's just read off the definition of mental health and determinants of mental health here. I didn't include the box in here, but it is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with normal stresses of life, and can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Doesn't mean if you're not contributing to your community you're not mentally well. It's just that mental health often can relate to social cohesion, social well-being, and lead to thinking about things beyond yourself. Okay, includes mental health definition also includes subjective well-being, perceived self-efficacy, autonomy, competence, intergenerational dependence, and self-actualization of one's intellectual and emotional potential, among others. So how different generations interact with each other and depend on each other is very directly related to mental health as well, and in general psychological well-being. If you feel abandoned, if you don't care for your parents and so on, it can be an issue of or an indicator as well. The promotion, protection, and restoration of mental health can be regarded as a vital concern of individuals, communities, and societies throughout the world. You know, the entire language about loneliness pandemic has now taken off. Came from Surgeon General in the US, Vivek Murthy, I think, a surgeon who started to make this a topic of discussion, and now it's come to India as well. With modern life comes nuclearization of families, intergenerational dependencies can decrease, and loneliness pandemics can become more prevalent. Okay, multiple social, psychological, and biological factors determine the level of mental health of a person at any point of time. So always expose yourself to more green spaces if you can. Okay, let's read a bit more before wrapping this up. This chapter on mental health. Application example of the conceptual model by Bratman et al. Mental health impacts of visitation patterns to an inner city built up park on a former brownfield site in Leipzig, Germany. You know, in general, Europeans are culturally more attuned to investing on well-being, non-market goods, and so on. Still, examples are always useful to see. I won't, this quality of the figure is not great, but nonetheless, so we looked at natural features, exposure, experience, and effect already. So you have green spaces combined with residences. So you have size of park, number and height of trees, tree species, playgrounds, benches, sports areas, etc. in terms of natural features. And you have exposure, sitting for 15 minutes and walking for 30 minutes in the park. These are kind of the meta-analysis of the studies. Experience, so restoration, outcome scales, profile of mood states, features liked, disliked, so these are self-reported, and there is some evidence shown here with data that you can look up. Sorry for the poor quality. And the effect, of course, on mental health, psychological well-being before and after. Quantitative measures shown here, but remember all the caveats we read about. Looking at another one, application example of conceptual model of Bratman et al. Stress-releasing impacts of urban nature in Hyderabad, India. India is a crowded place, and Hyderabad is a growing city. comes with a lot of these traffic, air pollution, noise issues, and so on. So access to green spaces is premium. So again, park size, street canopy, street trees, canopy size, and species is shown here. Exposure, proximity to nature, time spent in contact with nature. You can see a family picnic and a nice shaded area with fruits available. Experience, so free access and bonding can happen. The tea shops are always great in India. You can go to a park in the US and walk around for hours and find soda machines, but no fresh tea or coffee unless you go outside and again go to Starbucks. And if you are a person of taste for Indian tea and coffee, you know that Starbucks sucks in that sense. Okay, don't sue me. Effect economic and psychological well-being. It's perceived impact and maximum nature experience in a day in terms of hours per day. Women, children, older citizens, and street vendors. Street vendors report much more perceived impact because they have to be outside, and this is a woman here, so these are really critical as well. Okay, so that concludes part 3, which is a bit long compared to the previous sections we looked at. So we'll come back and look at part 4 and then part 5 and conclude this report on nature-based solutions for cities. This book actually that just came out. It's a nice long book, and you can see that I'm crashing it into few podcasts, which is unfair, but this is part of the longer adaptation course I'm recording, so you put it in the context and go back to the book if you need more details. Okay, see you in the next podcast.